All right.
Here we are.
Last, well, last. It's not the last.
By far.
Yeah.
But yeah, the next in that series of techniques, right? So the first one is observing your thoughts. Again, just to reiterate, the second one is focusing on a thought to the exclusion of everything else. And then the last one is no thoughts, which we've already said is pretty high level of achievement, and you're only going to be able to do it for a very thin amount of time, right? So again, even in the observation of thoughts, we get little glimpses of this, but this one's particularly used to sort of extend that time period out of no thoughts, or the time period of first the thoughts just slowing down, and lastly, glimpses of that, breaks with no thoughts, and then, being able to extend that out even further. And there's no force involved with doing that, right? Except, you know, again, consistency in, a thought arises and immediately getting rid of it. You're not observing it. You're just like, it comes up, you get rid of it. It comes up, you get rid of it. So it's not like, oh, there's the checkbook again, and, you let it go. It's not, that's the first exercise, right? Because I'm retaining the idea of what it is so I can see the patterns. The last one is, as soon as something starts to arise, whoosh, gone. I don't put any attention on it whatsoever. Gone, 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 until finally that progression starts to slow down, and again, we start to see a gap between the thoughts, and those are very energizing, even though we may not even be able to recognize it at first as something other than the thought, right? It's almost like we see one thought, we get rid of it right away. We see another thought, we get rid of it right away without analyzing it. And we notice that it seems like there was a bit of time between those two, but I didn't really identify it as anything. And that's good, right? So it's that lack of thoughts, but the non-identifying of it in the beginning is sort of gives you a glimpse into not naming things, right? It's like I can't really identify it, so it occupies sort of this space, right? And we're always trying to extend that space as much as possible. And it gives us a mental break, right? Because it's not just, sort of deflecting our own thoughts, or training our mind to give us a break and not have those things constantly coming in outside of our control, but also, there's this idea that our brain works as a transmitter and a receiver. And we're hooked into everyone else's thoughts too. It's not just our thoughts, right? But that somehow the collective unconscious is bombarding us at the same time. And so, at least from an esoteric standpoint, we think of that as being the case. And so, when we train to be in this place of no thoughts, in some ways it's being able to deflect our own thoughts out of the way, but it's also being able to sort of shield us, or put some type of shielding up that will deflect the collective unconscious, the stray random thoughts of wherever they come from, right? From all other people thinking at the same time. And that's sort of bleeding into us, or our receiver is picking that up.
And yet our experience of that is still personalized.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
It's not like we're thinking about whatever. I don't even know what
Right.
an archetypal thought would look like. But it's more like the
Right.
energy of those, that source is coming through.
I mean, I speculate that at some point, I'm sure we'll find this out, but, are the, people that are plagued by anxiety, they can't always tell you why they're in that state. And so, where is that coming from? Is it some kind of chemical imbalance, or is it maybe is one thing that we need to explore that they don't have any of that shielding? And so, they're getting the random thoughts of all these other people, and it's sort of driving them crazy. It's causing this rise in anxiety. Their receiver is sort of on a wide band, so they're perceiving and picking up stray and random signals from a lot of different places. And so because they can't you know distill those out from their own, there becomes this overwhelming feeling where people, either rise to the peak of anxiety to the point of panic, or they just shut down, right? So
you talk about shielding a lot. What is that actually like? How do we develop that?
This is the way we develop it. So it's not something that you're going to just, I think that that's probably one of the things that we differ in from other techniques, is that people will sort of give these ideas. Oh, if you image these things in place or whatever, like a bubble around you or those types of things, right? Those are very common to hear, and that seems pretty woo-woo and seems pretty, new agey. And originally they're not. Originally they do come from some of these older traditions. The part that they're missing in between and sort of taking for granted is that, have you ever tried a focus exercise, and how long can you hold that?
Right, it's not
So you're trying to tell me that you can hold a blue bubble around you when you can't focus on the number 3 for, 2 seconds, and that's going to shield you? How does that work? So it's not like it's, they're taking things out of place.
Right.
And they're saying, oh, do this advanced technique, like going to a yoga class saying, empty your mind, no thoughts. How are you going to do that?
Right.
What's the step-by-step process? How long can you do that for? Can anybody really achieve that?
Right.
Without a very systematic method of doing it.
So it's not so much that those techniques don't work.
No.
It's literally just
they do work.
The ability of focus of the practitioner.
Yeah, it's like trying to, teach some kid, I don't know, bodybuilding routine, but they've never been in the gym before.
Right.
You kill them.
Right.
If they could do it at all. Not to mention the fact that even if they go through the exercises to whatever level that they can do, they'll never go back to the gym again, because they're going to be in agony for the next 2 weeks.
Right. And at least with this, it's a little bit more forgiving, right? Because it's like it just doesn't,
to some degree,
it just doesn't work the way that we're expecting it to with a technique like the bubble thing.
Yeah. Or I see so many problems with it from a standpoint of, I don't want to tell somebody they can do something and then not have it done, and then them think that it doesn't work or that it can't be done, and it's all just bullshit, right? It's like, no, you weren't taught how to do it correctly, so no, you can't do it effectively. And so, but that doesn't mean it can't be done. It just means that you need to know how to proceed to build yourself up to being able to do that.
Right. And nobody ever explained it.
Nobody ever explained it correctly, because they didn't learn it themselves. So, it's easy to see, so it's a lot of these things are, yeah, it's not that they can't be done. I would never say that. It's just that,
or that those
techniques don't work. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
It's not that they don't work. It's just that people aren't trained well enough to be able to make them work to the level that they say they're going to.
Yeah.
That's not happening. So you need that step-by-step process, and you'll see when you try to do it how hard it is. And so, if you can't hold something that you've been dealing with your whole life, like the number 3, how much more are you going to be able to hold this concept of a bubble around you that walks with you everywhere you go, surrounds you and keeps out stray energy or aggressive things or whatever, and hold the color blue and, and, but and you're supposed to do that while you go through your normal day. It's not like you're sitting in a closed off place and you're envisioning that. It's like you're at your workplace doing work, and it's like as soon as your attention is off it, do you think it's still there? No, it's not. If you held it at all to begin with, it was for a fleeting moment, and then, then you're into your regular workday, and that's it. It takes a lot of focus and concentration to be able to put something like that in place and hold it in place while you're doing something else.
Mm-hmm. And just to future pace a little bit, like if you can take that, the using these three techniques of developing focus and no thoughts and observation, it's like the ultimate expression of that is the ability to hold an image like that, like this blue protective sphere or something, if you choose to, and to be able to mentally engage in other things and still have that be there, even though you're not putting conscious effort into maintaining it.
Right. Yep.
There's a part of your will and your mind that gets so trained and so strong that it can do that for you.
It can hold that for you. Right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. I would agree. Yeah. Yeah, so that's that. So we're looking for those breaks, right?
With
we're looking
this,
for the
yeah,
gaps where
right.
there are no thoughts. And as you observe them, and that's the part you're observing now. The other ones you're just literally taking offline as soon as they come into your awareness, and and they slow down. And when it hits a certain pace of slowness, you're going to see that those gaps of no thoughts open up and get more extended, until again you can hold that for an extended amount of time. I mean, again, 5 minutes of holding that is going to do great things for you. But to be able to hold it for 20 minutes or longer is really, if you can hold it for 20 minutes, to extend that is going to be no problem.
Right.
20 minutes seems to be the breaking point where then I could extend it farther if I wanted to. If I had more time to do that, you'd be able to hold it.
Because at that point you're in such a deep state of silence that it's like you're not really putting any more constant effort or attention into holding it. It's like it just
Right.
becomes a
It's
state.
almost like, that becomes your focus then, as long as that doesn't seem like an oxymoron. It's like you're focusing on no thoughts.
Right.
So you're able to hold that state of mind for an extended period of time.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Simple, not easy.
I'll say. All right. So, anything else with that, or any other recommendations for the technique, or how that will, work with any of the other things we've done or will do, or is that? I think we went into it, but just I don't know.
I mean, I think sometimes isolating yourself and isolating some of the other senses is a good way to kind of help, speed that along and make your progress a little quicker, right? So, if you're wearing, if you have earplugs in to block out any sound, of course, then you're going to have to contend with your heartbeat, right, at some point, and breathing sounds. So you'll have to, dissipate those and sort of let them go as well. But sometimes I find even like earphones with, people could use white noise or anything like that. I like rain sounds, just a constant steady rain. That seems to be that drone place where it helps to dissipate thought. You can put yourself in that very blank space. And again, darkness is a good way to take the visual reference out, or an eye mask, or closing your eyes, or whatever, any of those things. Any way you can think of to deflect sensory input is going to be, to your advantage. The less sensory input, then you only have to contain, you only have to deal with thoughts that come in and out. You don't want to also contain with, I'm cold, be warm, be comfortable. I don't want people banging around in the house to disrupt me or whatever, so it's like I do it at a time when most people are in bed, that kind of thing. So just, doing those arrangements and sort of, again, taking out as much of the sensory array as I can, just to sort of limit my exposure to other things that will distract me. Things that I need to, I don't need to pay attention to, but they're screaming for my attention. The more of those things I can take out of the picture, the better at the time. It's only going to, make it a little bit easier for you. So,
Okay.
utilize that.
Awesome. That's great.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Great. Ta-da!
Yeah, baby.
Observation, focus, no thoughts.
In that order, please.